Coach, you've told us satisfied is not a word you use around this time. How would you describe this team's state of preparedness for opening the season?
I would say we're a work in progress. I think that we're a work in progress. I think we're getting better. I mean, most of what we see is encouraging, and everybody wants everything perfect all the time. But we are seeing great energy, and so we want to get closer to perfect and do it even faster. I mean, that's what you're always working on, and no matter what happens, you're working on that. But the biggest thing is we got some explosiveness, but we want to have some consistency. We want to stay explosive, but we want to have higher on base percentage. How's that?
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Steve.
Coach, some interesting developments with the depth chart there, and Terrell Shavers edges out Osiris Mitchell there. What was kind of the deciding factor in giving Tyrell the nod?
I don't know if they really edged out, per se. I do think Shavers has been more consistent lately, but we're going to play with 8 receivers and roll them in, and so Osiris is right in the thick of it. I mean, it could say or, but I do think Shavers has practiced more consistently lately, and I do expect Malik to play quite a lot. I think they both will, and in the end, it wouldn't surprise me if it came out even.
Go to Ben Portnoy.
Mike, just general housekeeping. Are you guys expecting any absences or anything like that this week, or are you guys pretty much good to go?
We're good to go. Yeah, 100% healthy. Just another consecutive, working on another decade of perfect news with regard to health and participation.
Joel.
Also on the depth chart, Coach, KJ and Will, it still has the or between those two. I'm assuming KJ been playing with the ones a lot, that he might get the starting nod, but just wanted to ask, has that been determined officially?
I expect KJ to start. Will's doing a great job. I expect KJ to start.
Robbie.
Hey, Coach, it's been such a strange few months for you since you've been on campus. You were hired and the season and everything kind of broke out with the pandemic and all that stuff. Just interested in your thoughts on how everything's gone for you as a head coach and finally getting a chance to get out there and coach a football game with your team.
Well, we're all excited about that. I think it's gone for me like it has kind of for everybody in the SEC and what would it be, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12. I mean, it's gone the same for me as those guys. I mean, we're very, very excited we get to play. We're thrilled that we get to be with our guys and go out there and practice. And then we're really excited about the game coming up. And we're even more excited because, we started 2 weeks later. But I think that, just there's been the ups and downs and the distractions. And so working through that, and so I guess in our case we work through the distractions, wait them out really, and then but when we hit the field, just try to embrace all that, and and I do think there's been a lot of enthusiasm because I think that on our team's part there's a certain amount of relief when they get out there and they get to play because it feels normal, it feels structured. It's a period of time where it's not distracted, and then it's a breather from, just some of the joyless atmosphere that's been going on. So,
Go to Paul.
Coach, it seems like you had a pretty good battle at place kicker too with Arizona State transfer Brandon Ruiz and
say it real quick, louder, something about Arizona State.
Talk about the battle at place kicker with Brandon Ruiz and Jace Christmas.
Well, I think they're both really good. And we tee them both up all the time. But Ruiz has done some really good things, and he's really explosive. The ball explodes off his foot, and I think that we've been pleased with the fact that we have two guys that we think are pretty good.
We'll go to Gary.
Coach, I know a lot of teams simulate noise when they're preparing for a road game. Are you having a way to simulate maybe where 25% is the capacity in practice to maybe how that's different from a normal preparation week?
Yeah, we kind of treat it like we do practice. The noise in our last, and we're going to work on the speakers a little. Our last stadium deal with the noise, which was last Thursday, it was loud-ish. We want it louder, and probably louder than maybe some of the stadiums will be. But the biggest reason is first of all, it's my hope that these stadiums aren't empty all year long, and I don't know if that may be wishful thinking. And then the other thing is, what I like about the noise, even if the stadium's relatively quiet, is you have to be alert on your communication and communicate non-verbally. So this week when we go out there on Thursday, we're going to get this thing cranking, probably illegally loud based on game experience. Nobody follows it, but everybody's loudspeakers are supposed to be a certain, only so loud, I guess. Or at least the Pac-12 had a rule like that. Maybe they don't here, but you're only supposed to go so loud. And then, of course, when they needed a third down, that thing would get, louder than hell. But no, we're going to get that thing cranked up. Try not to hurt our ears too much. Try to get some annoying sounds, that are annoying and distracting, and then communicate non-verbally so that, because if you can do it that way, it's all the tighter if you have the ability to talk, And then, if you get it really loud and we do a good job, heck, we may be able to win a charades championship if we go against somebody in some category like that, because as we signal.
We'll go to Steve.
Coach, Mississippi State fans are kind of coming off an offense where the play was dictated by the look of the defense. What's your philosophy on that? Do you just kind of run your call, or is it a situation where even if they give you a run look, do you just kind of stick with what you're running?
A little of both. I would say, well, first of all, the defense is going to decide where the space is. I think offense, what you're trying to do on offense is create space. On defense, you're trying to restrict space. I really think that's the simplest way to describe offense and defense, because, people give clinics that can go on hours or even days on, what somebody likes on offense or what offense is or what defense is. But in the simplest terms, I've always said defense, they're trying to restrict space. Offense is trying to create space. So, the defense is going to dictate what they run. The other thing, about defense, there's a point to where, that you can't block everybody, so you better have a plan, because somebody's got to hold the ball on offense, you see. So defense can always bring more than you can block. And so within that, and we refer to it as leverage and numbers. How many do they have? How many do we have? Are they off? Are they on? And of course, then they're going to try to disguise it and cover it up. And so we try to sort that. But then the other thing is I try to have plays, a number of plays that have a lot of options. Okay, so like for example, in this defense, this guy will probably be open. Okay, but in that defense, the other guy will probably be open, and I'm okay with that. And then we just have to get our eyes in the right place and execute. And then, of course, the defensive guy is going to say, well, we're going to transition faster than you can execute. And if that's true, we're in for a long day. But I think that's. I try to have multiple options on it, and then try to get a beat on what they're doing and react to that. And so, in other words, tailor the calls around it. I mean, do we have a list? Everybody's got a list, and yes, we go down the list. And if it's got, if the play's got enough dimension to it, we might call it anyway. But then, within that, you have to have the ability to check and react at the line of scrimmage, and I think that's important, and I think that needs to develop as a strength because just like defense can always bring more than you can block, offense always gets the last say of what they run, and if you make good choices and judgments on that, then your odds are better. So it's a little bit like betting horses. You want to get good value on the horse,
Gary Graves.
I can't hear you. I see the mouth. I can't hear. There's no words.
All right, there we go. Coach, how much has this this new schedule with SEC only changed your approach in terms of installing your offense as opposed to maybe starting off with a non-conference opponent?
I think less trial and error. I think we really got to hone it down and make sure we try to feature what we're best at and put our personnel in the best position we can. And I was inclined that way anyway, but I guess there's less margin of error on it because in the people that sort the schedules or whatever, I don't know who in the SEC's got the toughest schedule, but the toughest schedule that's ever been played in the history of college football is going to be one of the teams in the SEC this year. 10 for 10 straight SEC teams, no non-conference. That's going to be the toughest schedule that's ever been played in college football.
Robbie.
Coach, back to the defensive side of the ball, there's a lot of young guys. When you look at that roster and look at the depth chart too, that are going to have to play some major reps this season. They've been tested by a tough offense in the offseason, some really good receivers and skill position players. What's your thoughts on what you've seen from that defense, and especially some of the younger guys that are going to be pressed into action this year?
I think we have. I think we've had great effort over there. Again, I think just like offense, I think it's a work in progress, and I also think that. But they're playing hard, and then you have a better knowledge of the capabilities of some of the guys that played last year. Okay, so I don't know how to draw comparisons with that, but I do know this. Going through this every year for a long time. A lot of times, somebody that somebody hasn't heard of, they're saying, well, they're hurting here, they're hurting there. Well, there may be a new face, but you're not necessarily hurting. I mean, a certain amount of the time, the new guy's better than the last guy was, and then a lot of times, if you're at a place for a while, you're kind of excited the new guy gets in there because he's kind of emerged and maybe even passed up the last guy. And then, but the last guy, you're in a routine and there's a certain kind of cohesiveness to the play, and you can't change people out with disrupting other things. And so then, so I'm optimistic that some of these guys are really good, and now's their time. And then with that said, you try to put guys out there and put them in positions to do what they can, and then elevate it from there. And so every year's kind of like that. But I do think we've had some good competitive practices. It's different people do it differently, but we've gone good on good most of the time, and to try to raise the level of competition. I think our team has responded well, and I wish I had the answer to that question. That's a question I have myself, and to a point we ask each other a lot around here.
Go to Tyler.
Yeah, kind of going off of Robbie's question there, Mike, just specifically some of the younger guys are in the secondary, obviously, with Isaiah Spurge and London Kraft being a couple of guys who haven't started a game. What have you seen from them specifically in practice against your wide receivers, and how confident are you in those guys on the back end who might not have as much experience?
You know, those two guys you mentioned, they play crazy hard. I mean, I look out there. I had to get rid of a little. You can't cough in public no more. But no, I look at those guys, and you know, you'll see something fly around the ball. I'm amazed at how hard they play. I've been really impressed with how hard they play. And then the other thing, they both kind of have a nose for the ball. You know, they're both always around the ball, and I have noticed that. And I'm not, you know, going. You know, through their meetings, coaching them one-on-one. You know, their coaches, of course, do that. But out there, you know, you're trying to get something in or squeeze a post in or, you know, try to pull something on offense. And, yeah, they're very disruptive, you know. I mean, and then, you know, they come with serious intention and bounce all over the field. And they both of them catch well enough. And we got plenty of receivers. But those guys catch pretty good, you know. We got somewhere else for them if they get tired of DB, but now we're keeping them at DB.
We'll go back to Ben.
Mike, I know we've heard a lot about Devontae Payton in practices and through camp so far, but I guess with him heading into week one and, you know, one of the older guys in that receiving room, what are you kind of expecting out of him, and what does he kind of bring to this offense?
Plays crazy hard. If you have a deal, like we got a post-practice deal and you're getting reps there, you know, you say, all right, everybody get a rep. We have kind of an avoid drill. Well, eventually we have to kick him out of the drill because he's trying to get, like, you know, they're supposed to get 1. If he has his way, he'd get 9, you know. And then, so in the interest of time and all that, you know, we have to limit. We'll limit him to about 2, and he'll sneak in for a third one, right? And then now plays hard. Always wants the ball. I like the way he's full throttle, and you know, when he knows where to go, and we've got to ensure that we do a good job of that. You know, he gets there, and just he also. He also, you know, times the ball well. You know, I mean, times the ball well. It reminds me kind of a center fielder. You know the deal. The ball comes off the bat, and the guy runs, and he's standing at the spot. He already knows where the thing's going to land, you know, standing. And so some guys don't play the ball in the air as well as he does. And Artie does it good, and I think he's getting better at it. And then the other thing is because he is full throttle, and he does play hard, he's on a number of special teams too, and so we're going to have to sort that a little bit because he could be on all of them if we let him, and it'd be his idea to do that too.
Steve, go ahead.
Coach, I know it's a different team down in Baton Rouge. What are your early thoughts about LSU?
You know, what's tough about them. You know, because you know they got quality players and quality coaches, but what's tough about them is you know, there's going to be some change in you know, some of what they do scheme wise on both sides of the ball. You know, maybe subtle changes, but there is going to be some change. And then the other thing is just like I was asked earlier about our team. You know, they have some new faces too. And I hope those new faces are worse than the guys that left, okay? And but you know, intellectually, I know some of them will be better, but it's the same thing. So as far as just saying, you know, this position, that position, the other position, that's tougher with them now than it is sometimes because they do have a number of new faces. And so in the end, I mean, we can only control what we can control, and that's just us being the best team that we can be because kind of real precise evaluations on their scheme and their personnel are pretty tough this time out of the blocks. I mean, if you play them fourth games, then it's a little more clear cut because you got film. But some of these guys we haven't seen play, and some of these coaches we haven't seen what they have to offer this time around. So
We have time for just a few more. We'll go to Joel.
With Joquavius Marks and Dylan Johnson, obviously they got Kylan Hill sitting there in front of them. But how much could you see those guys, those young guys, playing at running back, and just how they'll be used?
Well, I think they're going to play a lot, and I think they're going to be good. And Marks is right in the thick of it. Marks is playing really well. I mean, I think all three will play. And I think all three will play. And then, and I think, kind of the beginning of, well, it's hard to say, this year's pretty tough to figure out with all the stop and start, where the beginning was is tough to identify. But I think over a period of time through the off season, and since we started practicing, Marks has just steadily improved.
Paul.
Coach, I've noticed Matt Brock during the week always has a special team player of the day, and I know you put a big emphasis on special teams. Just kind of take us through what that leads to on game day when it comes to your special team players of the week, and how that, I guess, transpires to game day and possible reps.
Well, the special teams. The one thing on special teams, and it's interesting, and different teams have different approaches. Special teams per play is the biggest exchange of yards that exists. I mean, it's either points or per play averages out to the biggest exchange of yards that take place in a game. And so we want quality players on all the special teams. The best that we can put out there. And then the other thing is, some of these that have aspirations to play beyond college, it's kind of funny. And I'm sure you guys are conscious of it too. They come in and, occasionally some guy thinks he's too good to play special teams. Well, whoever's your favorite player in the NFL, ask that guy if he's too good to play special teams, And then the first question scouts ask, because they have a kind of a better sense of what they're doing offensively or defensively. They'll say, what does he do on special teams? Then they'll say, what can he do on special teams? And then often they'll ask, why don't you have him on this special teams? And sometimes it's a guy that, you got to be careful about overtaxing. But I think that, if a guy's you need guys that are good enough to play offense and defense, typically to play special teams. And then the other thing is once in a while you got, the kind of the unique guy, some wedge buster kind of guy, or some, the guy that occasionally you find a guy that's just a true special teams guy. And, yeah, he'll beat out some starter on offense. He'll beat out some starter on defense, and he's just really good in that role. But typically, you need to put I think you need to put your best athletes on special teams just like you do offense and defense.
We'll wrap up with Tyler.
Yeah, Mike, going back to what we were talking about with the secondary and a little bit of inexperience there, CJ Morgan is a guy who has quite a bit of it, but we didn't see him on the depth chart. I know he's coming back from an off-season surgery. Do you expect him to be available at some point this year, or is he still rehabbing that?
He's not available right now. But, we're optimistic and keep our hopes up.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
All right. Appreciate it. Good to see you guys. Got to get my free Coke. Second only to seeing you guys is free Coke.